I'm going to go ahead and get started this evening. I'd like to open the marketing committee meeting. It's 6:32. I am Trustee Berg, present. Also, Trustee Galante is here, and Trustee Mueller. Item number 2, consider the approval of the minutes of the marketing committee meeting held on June 24, 2019.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Item number 3, discuss wayfinding project, sign and location review. On the telephone, we have Vicky from KMA, who is our vendor for the development of design for the. Vicky, are you there?
Yes, hi.
Hi. We're going to go ahead. We're going to follow along with the presentation on the screen as well.
With me here today, I have Barbara Martin, our CEO, and Frank Spini, one of our senior graphic designers and our construction expert.
Hello. How are you?
Hi. We're good. How are you?
So we wanted to, great, thanks. We wanted to start the presentation with a brief summary of the process up to date. So we started the project by performing a photographic inventory and preparing a village wayfinding analysis where we examined the village's existing signage, architecture, and the branding elements, and made recommendations for the future signage implementation. During our schematic design phase, we took inspiration from the village's brand to develop 3 unique sign families that highlighted the village's brand colors and then your strong music influences. We worked with the Signage Committee and the Village Branding Commission to develop different different design options and different revisions till we came up with a design that was chosen last fall. Since then, we've been developing the sign family to encompass all sign types, including gateways and village vehicular and pedestrian wayfinding. We also kind of developed an extra vertical gateway to implement in secondary locations. Our project management team works on planning the signage locations and messaging with the input from the signage committee. And we worked with some vendors to come up with some budgetary pricing for the entire signage package. Hopefully after tonight, we'll be able to close out our current contract and give you guys a final design plan package. So we're gonna go through the sign designs as they have been developed.
Okay. All right, we're going to start with the proposed gateway sign, and this has a combination of utilizing a perforated or cutout metal, which is the copper that you see on the drawing, that'll be backed by acrylic, and then at night it would illuminate with an RGB or a rotating color system. You could either make that fixed as one color or it can slowly change colors if that's your desire. The letters are going to be internally illuminated white, so that'll really stand off against that background. And what you're seeing represented here in the evening shot is actually kind of that movement of color. So it'll change from the daytime, which is more of that Tinley Park blue, to more of a revolving, eye-catching beacon. In addition to the larger gateway sign, as Vicki alluded to previously, we have a secondary gateway, which is when we have issues with right-of-way or the amount of land that's available for the identification when you've approached the city boundaries. So in this case, it says Tinley Park. We had to run that vertically, but it still then celebrates the community and then has the perforated metal cut out, and then it'll have the same lighting internally as we've projected on the horizontal gateway sign. In addition to the main and secondary, there's also a need for some tertiary gateway or identification type signs, and these would appear on much smaller roadways or where we have literally very little right-of-way space. So it depends again upon where these things are being placed and the visibility that would be required. Slower rate of speed roads, this would be perfect on. You wouldn't want to put this on multiple lane roads or anything that's over 35 miles an hour. So there's a plan for each one of these dependent upon where they're actually being placed. Then approaching downtown, we wanted to carry through the thematic elements that have existed in the gateway sign types. So we have very similar items, but we really wanted to highlight the word downtown. So utilizing a very bold font, it says downtown. These could act as a gateway using two of them or just simply one on one side of the road that you're traveling towards. And then it just simply says the name Tinley as a reiteration that you have indeed approached the downtown area within the community. The same lighting would be occurring on this as well, so that you have similar look during the day or at night. And that's an example of how it would look, again, if it was illuminated. It's very eye-catching and, kind of celebrating that spirit that you guys have with this musical heritage that you pull into your community. Then to continue with the sign program and family, we had to develop wayfinding signage. We are limited in some aspects as to what we can do with the placement of type. The size of the type is dependent upon the rate of speed on the road. The arrows and placement of the arrows are also dictated by the Manual for Uniform Traffic Control Devices. That's the federal highway standards. So with that, the panel that contains the messages is compliant. But to add a little bit more excitement and relate back to the gateway and the downtown signage, we've done this kind of open laced banner of sorts that would appear on the side of the sign. There is a finial at the top. It may be a little difficult for you to see, but it has the T from the Tinley Park logo, and then also kind of pulling in those copper elements at the top of the sign panel, as well as the footer that would be near the ground, the sleeve. And then just as you get closer and more of a pedestrian scale, you have smaller sign types that also act as directional. This one happens to be a one message directional. Parking signage is also a viable part of your overall sign family. In some instances, you would just be labeling parking lots, but in others, you need to direct to them if they're not on the main drag or main roadway. So that would serve as a small directional. And then the next sign type at the same size would then identify different locations. So we call these your destination signage. It could be any particular area that you're highlighting and providing directions to. And also then at your parking lot, these are kind of out of order, but at your parking lot, as I said before, you would identify that you have indeed arrived, but also any restrictions with regard to who can park there, what hours of the day you can park there, what the costs are, et cetera. So it gives you a little bit of a floor plan of sorts as to how exactly the lots are to be used. Then within pedestrian areas, there is also a kiosk type sign that would provide a map indicating destinations. It would also provide you with, it could say vendors if you want. It could coordinate with the various businesses. In some cities, they have actually coordinated funds, so those businesses pay to have their name on the directories, and others it's just more generic and provides kind of walking distances to the individual sign types, or to the individual entities and how long it takes to walk. But it provides you a good vehicle to put a lot of information within a housing that again relates to the rest of your signage, but then it's presented more at a pedestrian level. Okay, so that actually is the entire sign family. So if you have any questions or comments, that would be great. And then we can go into a little bit more about the budget and some additional items that we've been looking into at the request of the committee.
All right, does anyone have any questions at this time regarding the signs, the three types? What is it? See if she can hear you.
I wanted to find out one about, were all these locations that where they want to put the signs, is there already electricity at these locations?
I believe too, oh, so the 159th and Harlem sign is, it's dark?
Sign location.
Okay, I thought that one had
When we
some,
get to, get that breakdown.
Yeah,
'cause
we're gonna
that'll-
talk about budget a little bit and then kind of figure out our next steps on how we're gonna prioritize.
Okay. The other thing I noticed, the downtown sign, I mean, it has the sign that says downtown, but I remember a couple restaurant owners who had mentioned they'd like signs so that people know there's music, to let them know that there's music down there, and, you know, live music or whatever. I'm not sure if we're getting that into this somewhere.
Right now, that would be on the wayfinding, so if you wanted to address it either by the type of venue or the actual, we can determine on those, that once you show the MUTC sign guidelines, we can direct people to, if you wanted live music downtown, if you wanted to make a convention center, that is for us to determine how long.
Okay. And the kiosk ones, are those like interactive? I mean, can we update those? Can we do anything where we can highlight where we have live music at nights or anything on there? Is it just?
Speak to that. We talked about that as part of our group. I don't know if she can hear me. Vicki, can you speak to the idea of an interactive kiosk?
Yeah, so the way that the kiosk is designed currently, that map, I can pull it up here. The map can actually be replaced with a standard sized LED screen. That could either be just a rotating screen or it could be touch screen just based on location and budget. It's really up to the village on how they want to proceed with that. We did look into both exterior ones so that they could be in your downtown area, or interior ones that you could possibly implement like inside of your convention center building to kind of bring those signs into that portion of your village area.
And with the LED, of course, it adds cost to the sign site, but then if you get into something like touchscreen, you can just imagine that doubles and triples in cost because it gets a little bit more intense, particularly within an exterior application.
Okay, I just want to mention, I've been in different towns where they'll have them in their hotels, the convention center, something like that, where it's a great tool. I mean, it's a great way to get people to know about our businesses and know where our live music is and all that stuff. And I didn't see it on here, but there were some pictures of some of those tall, skinny ones, just on the side of the road.
with the Tinley Park sideways.
Yeah, and I didn't
I
like
wasn't
it
digging
at all.
that. I have to
just
say, I
didn't-
agree.
I thought it was
They
very.
should have some pictures in their package. Are you, KMA, are you going to show the photos that are have the signs photoshopped in?
Yes,
Okay.
I can pull those up right now. So we have Photoshop locations for the horizontal and all of the vertical gateways.
I thought it was hard to read the Tinley Park. I like this.
I think it's weird. that you're driving down the street and there's a weird sign.
It's like
I don't
sideways.
think it'll do
Yeah.
anything for us. I just don't see the value of it being there.
You don't like the fact that it's horizontal, that it's
It's
going
just
up
sitting on the side of the road, like, who's gonna notice that? I can't imagine we're gonna bring electricity to it to light it up.
So just to briefly go through these locations, we did plan to implement one of the horizontal gateways in place of your existing gateway on the corner of 159th and Harlem. So we wanted to show that in place. We also have a rendering of what it could look like at night. Now, the way that the LEDs are planned, it's not necessarily always going to be rainbow. It's set up that you can control the color. And Frank, you can kind of say how there's like a million colors you could possibly do, correct?
Yes, this system is going to be a solid acrylic panel behind the cutout perforated background. Inside, it is a proprietary product from Vitro Systems that gives you the ability to have it a solid color during the day, and during the evening with the programmable RGBs, you could have millions of colors of your choosing. Or if you'd like to have a solid color for certain events, you could have that during the evening as well.
And then it's like holidays or You can make it red and green, you know, or however you want it to really celebrate the use of it, because it gives you so much flexibility.
So this is the only location where we have planned a horizontal gateway. The horizontal gateway is about 10 feet wide, and what we ran into in several of the other gateway locations was, as Barbara kind of alluded to, was a problem with space. So to remedy that, our vertical gateway is 3'6" wide, so it's a bit wider than a typical standard door. And so the major gateways remaining would get one of these signs. Now this sign is 10 feet high, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So it still gives you, even though it's vertical, it still gives you the height and the eye-catching look that we were trying to achieve. So the first location we have is where one of your existing gateways are on 159th and 86 near the Chevy dealer. So this kind of shows you the scale of the sign in place.
And one of the recommendations that we would make is in an instance like this where you have such a busy backdrop, that you might want to put some larger shrubs or taller natural elements behind it to kind of serve as a buffer between the other signs that's there for the dealership or some of the vehicles that are parked up next to it. It just helps kind of separate it and celebrate that sign a little bit more.
Our second location is coming off of LaGrange, heading east on 171st, just past the CVS. So again, this kind of just shows you the sign, its scale and place. For all of these locations, prior to digging or laying any foundations that would be necessary, we would go out on site and stake the sign and make sure that the location is the perfect location for the sign. We may, move it back or forth a couple feet depending on what's actually there in place. Our third location is heading north on Harlem. This is mostly for people coming off of 80, but also for anyone coming up Harlem, kind of away from the amphitheater. So this would be near your big sign for your convention center. Now the fourth location is heading north on LaGrange. This would be the same instance. So this is mostly for people coming off of 80, but also for people heading north on LaGrange. This would be near a Texas Roadhouse. And then the last location for one of these vertical signs would be on 183rd at the intersection of Ridgeland. Now, currently you have an existing sign on the left-hand side of the road, and you also have your large water towers that have the brand on them. This would be planned to be on the right-hand side of the road, because wherever possible, we always tend, as you're driving on the right-hand side, to keep the sign on the right-hand side for the best visibility.
Thank you, Vicki.
We also do the downtown. Oh, sorry.
We're wondering if we can get into the budgetary portion.
We should also talk briefly about the limitations we have on the right-of-ways. That is why they are as narrow as they are, because we have limited right-of-way. So, Vicki, you do have the size limitations, right, on the rights-of-way?
I can pull that up.
That's our issue. Is
So, yeah. So it's,
I don't think they're gonna be seen.
10 feet high?
Just think of their eye. It's just
Yeah, the one by the car dealer, it blends in too much, I think, as well.
I love the, the regular ones. I love the horizontal. I love the super down.
So we were provided information on the right-of-way availability at all of the locations. So what I did, typically per the MUTCD and the state, because the state cites the MUTCD as their guidelines, sign has to be 12 feet off of the road. So with the information that was provided to me, I kind of figured out what the available space was in these locations. So in some of the locations, we did have more than 10 feet of available space. That was sign 203, 204, and 205. So South Harlem, heading north, South LaGrange, also heading north, and then 183rd, heading west. So those did have a lot of available space. So we had initially planned those as secondary gateways. We had some locations that had about 6 feet of available space. It was maybe a little bit more, but 6 feet was the average. So South Harlem at 159th, that's where your existing sign is at the intersection. 159th at 86, so that's your existing sign at the Chevy dealer, and South LaGrange at 171st. Now this location in its entirety moved. The sign near the CVS was initially planned to be closer to the intersection, and through our meetings with the branding commission and with the sign committee, we decided to push it back just to kind of give it more space because there wasn't a lot of available space right in front of the CVS. I believe we were told by the public works guys that at one point there was a sign there and they had to remove it. There were a couple locations where there was very, very little space. So at Harlem, on Harlem Road, before you turn to go towards Odyssey Fun World, we would like to place a sign there because that is kind of more your true border. However, because of having a larger sign up past the I-80 exit, we decided to do a tertiary sign. There is some available space there, but just from a practicality standpoint, we didn't want to do 2 large signs within such a short distance from each other. And then we have another tertiary sign planned on 80th at Lakeside. And that would be a smaller tertiary gateway just due to the level of traffic that comes up there. We did have 2 locations where, according to the information was provided, there was no available space. Ridgeland at Balmer, I believe there is an existing sign there. We replaced it with a tertiary gateway. And then on 159th, heading west before you hit the large intersection of, the intersection of Oak Park and 159th, we wanted to put a tertiary gateway sign there. Kind of the same idea as the instance near the convention center. We didn't want to have 2 large signs in such a close proximity to each other because you would still have your sign at Harlem and 159.
Great, thanks, Vicki. I think we're going to, thank you for the visualization. They really come to life the way you've presented it to us. I think we want to look them over and talk again further. Is that okay? Did you want to go over the prices, or should we?
I think we're looking for some direction on next steps.
So on the bottom it said A, B, or like,
We have, right now, we have $250,000 in this year's budget for fabrication. We're coming to the end of the design phase, and so now we would be looking at what we want to do. We're putting this in front of you to get some feedback from you, whether or not you want us to proceed with this look, or you don't like this, you want us to go a different direction, and then some direction on how you'd like us to proceed into next budget year with those dollars.
with the remaining amount?
Yes.
How much of the 250 went into the design phase?
None of it, that
None
was
of
paid
it?
for that's
Okay.
already paid for from last
Gotcha.
budget. So this is money that's set aside specifically for fabrication.
it's that.
However, you saw some of the materials that were provided to you. You see what the budget costs are. There's a high end and a low end on the cost of these signs. We just need some direction on how you'd want to phase this in. If you don't like this and you want to go a different direction, the reason that we went with the vertical sign is because we have these size limitations. And so that was what precluded us. The logo does not read on 2 lines, Kinley and Park. It didn't look right when we did it. So that's why we moved back into this. We had quite a bit of discussion at the Marketing and Branding Commission meeting about, what would work, what couldn't work. So as we present this to you now, this is where we stand. We need some direction on if you want us to continue to proceed with this, if you want something else to, for us to make some modifications, and like I said, direction on how we'd like to proceed into this coming budget year.
Okay. Well, I think I'd like to pause for a moment and look at the vertical sign and see if there's other options, as well as that touchscreen is going to be a lot more money in the kiosk. So we do want to factor everything in, but I think it's just too much to move forward with when we have uncertainty about the basic signs. I don't know
I
if that
agree on
sums
the
it up.
gateways. I did like the wayfinding signs, though. I thought those
They're
were-
beautiful.
Yeah, I think.
This sign is nice in certain spots.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just don't like this. I feel like it's gonna be lost, and I don't see the value. But, I don't think people are gonna notice it there. It's just odd. I mean, it just looks odd to me to be just sitting there, and maybe it's just because it's this picture, but,
You're talking about
and-
the vertical sign.
the
Yeah.
just this one sheet, like you're showing right now.
Okay.
There's a couple of them that were just on the side of the road. During the day, I think they'll definitely be lost. And maybe if they're lit up, but I just think the amount of money to bring electricity to this, there's gonna be a lot. And I actually think, your signs you have right now, or the poles, flags you have, attract a lot more attraction.
They look fantastic,
you know?
and everyone's worked really hard on this, and we appreciate it. Just want to take a second look, I think.
Okay.
But I personally like the rest of them.
I love the rest,
just
I love all of them, but I don't like this one in every spot. I mean, it was okay on LaGrange Road.
To limiting the wayfinding signs themselves and moving the gateway signs themselves and moving forward with the wayfinding and less.
I like the gateways a lot. I think everyone did,
Right now, we
right?
have gateway signs at 8 different locations. Those
They're
are
10
the
feet
red
wide,
ones
though.
that we have.
And they can't go everywhere, so we're gonna have to,
But some of those gateway ones were vertical, right?
those are called secondary gateways,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
Right.
Yes, they are.
yeah. So I don't know how you could redesign the vertical ones without doing something with the horizontal ones.
I was just gonna
Maybe that's just
switch
me.
it out, perhaps, but it's 10 feet wide, and there's easements, and we'd probably have a lot of work to do on that, I think.
Yep.
So thank you.
Okay.
So come up with some different options for the vertical sign. Okay.
Okay.
Or could we just eliminate some?
That may likely be the recommendation, is perhaps we find 1 or 2 or 3 wayfinding locations, or gateway locations, and then move forward with the wayfinding. The wayfinding is what we're grossly lacking right now in our community. That's the
Mhm.
feedback
I
that we're
like
getting from people, is they don't know how to, if you visit this community, you don't know how to find anything.
Mhm.
And so, it is our primary objective.
Very nice.
So
And we
the
could put
direction
the
to
money
move
into the
forward
tools.
on wayfinding?
Definitely move forward on wayfinding. Are we in agreement?
Yes.
And what happens with the others? We just gonna meet, or?
Drill down on it, maybe bring something back?
KMA is on the line. Can you assist us then, Barbara, Vicky, with just putting together some, moving forward with wayfinding and less with gateway?
I'm sorry, Donna, can you repeat that last part you cut out?
Would you guys be able to work on the wayfinding solely right now, and then work on the vertical sign for a different kind of aesthetic with some, I don't know, little panache, I guess?
Are you okay moving forward on wayfinding only and then coming back with some other proposals on the vertical signs? We can talk to them.
Yeah.
off-
We'll talk.
I'll-
I think
I'll talk.
we get the staff to.
And we'll call it.
Okay.
Got it.
Is Vicky?
This is Barbara.
Hi, Barbara.
I didn't hear what you said, that's why Vicki just repeated it to me, so I apologize. Yeah, so what you're saying is we should move into the next phase and develop the CDs for the
Wayfinding.
wayfinding and do that as a bid package.
Yes, and we'll call
that
you
is
tomorrow.
Approved as is, but look at the modifications once again to this vertical one. We could certainly do that kind of simultaneously. I would only then have to request an ad service because we have done several iterations of this sign, of all these signs since the beginning. So I think we've gone well beyond probably 5 or 6 versions. So I could put that number together for you, but absolutely we could do these concurrent to each other.
Just real quick, these are the
Yeah.
same points I brought up when I was on Brandy. I just don't think anybody was listening to what we were saying. So for her to, I wouldn't expect there to be additional costs because we already
We're just switching things around, I feel.
brought it up that we didn't, yes.
So staff will be in touch with you guys tomorrow, and we'll talk further. Okay.
Thank you.
Hello?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll call you tomorrow. Like secretary. I don't know if she's still. Let's call. All right, cool. All right, item number 4, discuss downtown Tinley Park block party report. I believe Donna's gonna talk to
Quick little run through.
the very fun, dangerous day. with the weather, but it turned out great.
Jessica, super quick runs for you. Pretty exciting. So Sunday was our 21st annual block party. We were fortunate to have 20 years with no rain. This year, we did have a rain delay, a 3-hour rain delay in the window. There we go. Thanks, Laura. So we did, to accommodate some of the construction downtown, we did do a new layout, which actually worked out great. Tropical theme is, of course, backed by popular demand. We did have our 9 food vendors, 7 liquor vendors, and quite a bit of business and sponsorship participation this year. Happy to report we came in under budget. We had music at actually 4 locations. The north stage and the south stage had some good music lineups. We also had a DJ in the subway lot, some entertainment, and the right in front of Electric Blue playing some music all day long. Very positive feedback in spite of the rain from our vendors. Sorry, they jumped there. What's going on here? Oh, I'll just continue quickly. We had some positive feedback from our vendors in spite of the rain. Thank you very much.
No problem.
The ones who did participate, we had several who were first-time vendors. They were thrilled, in spite of the rain, to be participating, and even the ones who came back, one of them actually said he did better than he did last year, even considering the 3 hours that we
Super.
were out of commission. So we did kind of make up for it at the end. The last 3 hours were very well attended. Our participants did fairly well. Happy to report there were no incidents. Good time had by all, and a special thank you, of course, to Vicki Sanchez and Sue Paul, who put all of this together. In addition to this, is quite a team effort between our Public Works Department, our Police Department, everybody coming together to make a successful event. So we are planning on moving forward with that tropical theme again next year. And that's, any questions?
No.
It was fantastic.
Had a great time. It was awesome.
Great.
Thank you, Donna, very much, and everyone else worked very hard. Anyone would like to address the board at this time? The committee, rather? I'd like to make a motion to adjourn the marketing committee meeting.
Can I say something?
Sure.
They're not on, so maybe you can pass this along. What about 183rd Oak Park Avenue where Darla's is for a gateway sign? I mean, we have the Budigan and Mallow sign there, no? I mean, that's the main thoroughfare if you're heading into downtown Tinley.
Heading westbound. I saw, it's by the Darlas, isn't it, on the,
They're actually considering moving just a little bit further north on Oak Park Avenue, just beyond just north of 183rd, as the gateway for the downtown.
Oh, okay, but that wasn't on there, that's being discussed?
Yeah, it was one of the downtown signs that you saw.
Oh, I didn't
There's
see
gonna
it.
be one
Oh.
on the north end and one on the south end.
Okay.
Just a little bit. I can get you the locations.
Yeah,
and map it out.
there's a metal pole too that, I don't know how many years ago, where we had just a blue and yellow signs that said downtown Tinley with an arrow. I think maybe with the wind, I think it was on Middle Central Junior High, I think they were both sides of the street. If I look out my kitchen window,
I know.
yeah. So I don't know if you're gonna do anything with that, otherwise they could just rip it out of the ground, because it's
Those
just a
will come
pole
down
standing,
and be
yeah.
replaced by these, and as well as the wayfinding signs pointing people to the convention center,
Mhm.
the music theater, that type of thing.
Yeah, okay, thanks.
thank you. All right. Anyone else? All right, I'd like to adjourn the meeting at 7:05. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Who's next?
Yep. Good evening. Time is now 7:07. I'd like to call the Community Development Committee meeting to order. Present this evening are my fellow members, Diane Galante and Cynthia Berg. I think I have the wrong document open. We have quorum. Item number 2, consider approval of the minutes of the Community Development meeting held on June 24th, 2019. Do I have such a motion?
So moved?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Item number 3, Kimberly Clark to discuss the masonry variation request at 17130 67th Court.
Thank you. We have some homeowners here that are acquiring a property, and as part of that, they're looking to modify the home, do an addition. And in our code currently, in the building code, we require certain masonry requirements for any additions, in that the first floor is made of face brick on all sides for any addition being constructed. And the homeowners are requesting a waiver in this due to the style of home that they are looking to accomplish. Here's the property. It's actually 3 parcels totaling approximately 22,000 square feet. It's a ranch-style home. It's heavily wooded. Looking to make other repairs to the home as they look to improve it. This is the style they're looking. It's a ranch, and they're looking to add a hardy board on, and they do have some brick, but it's not meeting the full request of 100% of it being face brick. There's some other variation requests that they're looking for that they discussed last week at Plan Commission that were favorably viewed and will be coming forward. But because the masonry requirement is still in our building code, this is the committee that would grant a variation and forward it to the village board. We are looking to take this text out of the building code and into the zoning code, so this would be a committee that would not have to address these requests. But overall, the home is going to be vastly improved. We took a look at the neighborhood. There's a mix of housing styles, housing products that we didn't think that the 100% face brick would be inconsistent with the area. And we think the addition that they're doing is going to be very well done, and therefore we would be recommending approval of the waiver of the masonry requirement for this home at 17130 67th Court to be constructed with the siding that they are proposing, which is a hardy board, which is actually a step up from a vinyl siding. It's still like a cement type of product. So we'd be looking just to forward this on to Village Board for adoption.
Gotcha. And is Erica, Jason here? Did you guys want to say anything?
Yeah.
No? Glad you went with the hardy board. I'm happy with mine.
I know what German schmear is now.
Any other questions from the committee?
No. It's going to be really nice. Your house is nice.
Yeah, looks really nice.
Very excited.
Cool. Do we have a motion to send to the village board on August 6, 2019 to approve a waiver from the masonry requirement of the Tinley Park Comprehensive Building Code to permit a home addition at 17130, 67th Court to be constructed of siding per the discussed elevations?
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks for coming.
Nice to meet you.
They said we get to come to the home housewarming, so thanks.
Item number 4, Kimberly again, to discuss the annexation status of Lenny's Food and Fuel at 19420 Harlem Avenue.
Okay. Mr. Leonard McHenry is the owner of Lenny's Food and Fuel on Harlem Avenue, and he is petitioning the village to annex his 4.87 acre parcel located at 19420 South Harlem Avenue. And the project would require rezoning upon annexation and a special use permit for the existing service station and car wash. The annexation and zoning entitlements were reviewed by the village board back in July of 2018, and at that time there was not a motion to authorize the execution of the annexation agreement. The property is currently in Will County and has been operating and continues to operate, but Mr. McHenry wishes to expand his business in a similar fashion and within the village municipality, which would also include the sale of packaged liquor and video gaming. The fueling center and the convenience store were constructed in the county in 2015 and went through their various approvals, but they will eventually look to annex into the village. So we're having those discussions, and with the CD committee, we wanted to just outline a little bit of the annexation agreement, which would be generally consistent with the agreement that was presented back in 2018. And the following items would be addressed: that it would have a zoning of B3 with a special use to allow for the continuance of an existing gas station. An inspection would be performed on all the existing buildings and deficiencies noted with any timelines for compliance. There was lots of discussion about idling of trucks along the West Access Drive, and there'd be hours of operation, signage, discussion on liquor sales, video gaming, and eventually connection to village utilities, and any fees that would be included for such tap-ons. Upon the recommendation of the Community Development Committee, staff is looking to proceed with finalizing the annexation agreement discussions, having the zoning review at the Plan Commission is tentatively scheduled for August 1st with the public hearing on August 15th. The village board would then consider the Plan Commission recommendation, and then the annexation ordinance would be at a first read up September 3rd, with a public hearing for the annexation held prior to the village board meeting the same night. So we just are presenting this case again and looking for any additional feedback or comments. We have the owner and his attorney present as well if they would like to add to the discussion or answer any questions.
Thank you.
Good evening, Cass Wendland, attorney on behalf of the applicant. Lenny is also here with me, as well as other of our folks here, engineers, architect, superintendent, general counsel. You handled it pretty well. It's exactly what's coming forward. We're asking the board to reconsider. As you said, the board chose a year ago not to move forward with the annexation agreement. We're bringing this proposal forth again. We'd like to be part of the village. This proposal will allow for it to be part of the village. It'll allow for more control in the village. And ultimately, the question is whether it's better governed by this board here and this government here, or by 26 people sitting in Joliet. We'd like to be part of the community. We'd like to take advantage of your services. And with that would come more control by the village of the signage, the operations, the hours, all of these things. So that's what's being brought forth, and hope it to be considered favorably by the village boards.
Thank you.
You guys want to start?
Brad, do you know, like, an estimate of what we think this could bring into the village dollars?
Probably in the neighborhood of $400,000 to $500,000 a year.
And what about the added services, would the cost to us? I mean, for the police department and the fire department to start having, I mean, is there
Should be negligible.
any other concerns you see that we'd have to think about? For costs that we'd have to, will this, do we think this will increase trucks coming up and down the streets? Or is it mainly people that are already coming to the building?
I don't think the traffic will change by the annexation,
It's an existing truck stop.
what already exists.
That's
So,
During the previous round, sorry, did you want to go? Go ahead.
yeah, sorry, Mike. You go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna ask Kimberly, were you involved with the proceedings last year, a year ago? I think you were here.
Yeah, that was one of my
correct, with
first
Paula?
meetings when I got hired. So I know
Oh.
that the residents that about this, even when it was coming in through the county, there was a lot of conversation and concern. And then when it ultimately came to the village here, those same comments were echoed. So.
And what was the sign issue, was the prior that you were referring to?
There are
Was there a
couple of
problem?
signs that they have that are in addition to what we would allow, because they got it all done in the county. So we were discussing that, and at that time, we came to an agreement that they would make modifications and remove a few signs to come to as much as possible in compliance with our sign regulations.
Thank you.
Have we made progress on that?
It's resolved?
At the time, there was what we thought sort of came to agreement, at least with staff anyway, on the limitation of the number of signs, the one that would remain, the ones that would be removed. But ultimately, we never got past the motion for the annexation, so I don't know what the ultimate board would
Okay.
have been.
Yeah, I think on the signs, and, you know, there were other zoning matters that were brought up, you know, at the Plan Commission. And that process will take place again. And I'm sure the commissioners will have certain, you know, when they see the site plans and the plans and things like that, they'll have certain recommendations, and it'll kind of take the normal format of any, you know, applicant. the applicants will ultimately have to decide if that's something that they want to do and things like that. So, you know, tonight is not the stage for that process. We'll get into that in the multiple plan commission hearings there. And then ultimately, the plan commission will make those recommendations to you as well.
So by us moving it, if we move it forward, it just goes.
Yeah, they have a right to petition. The plan commission, I think, you know, the community development department likes to bring these to your guys' attention before the public hearings start. Just put it on your radar to see if there's any early suggestions or things you might have. But, you know, we will, you know, the full public hearing process will take place here.
Is there any objections that you guys have to them moving forward?
So it will not go to the
Go to
full,
plan.
when will the full board see everything after plan?
After
Yes.
plan, yeah.
I think you had it in September, right?
Yeah, it's tentatively scheduled September 3rd to go in front of Village Board.
Okay, well, I do want to see one thing, like if there were some police reports and things in this year time span for that meeting. So, yeah, it's okay.
Okay.
With me. Nobody-
And Kimberly, the only other thing I was gonna ask is, you know, a couple people that had issues that lived right next to it. Is there anything that could be done? A couple trees be put up or that would make them happy? I don't, you know, I didn't see, I did go over there, try to find what their issues were. I really didn't see it, so I'm not sure exactly where they live. But if it's possible, just to, if it's a tree they're looking for or some kind of barrier, I don't know. That would help
I mean,
them.
there's a 100-foot buffer that they planted. I believe that's the distance, if I recall, from those properties, and they have a pretty well landscaped. I think the general issue had more to do with kind of the use and some of the other requests, so.
Right, but nothing would change it. I mean,
No, I mean,
there's no changes to the-
we checked their landscaping in compliance with our landscaping ordinance, and I believe it was actually more than what we would have required. But we can still revisit that, make sure everything's still in good condition, and
Mhm,
if they
yeah.
need replacement.
If there's anything, you know.
Yeah, and if, to the extent the neighbors have something specific they think would help.
Right, that would be nice to know.
Yes, obviously they'll have the chance to give that testimony and.
Public hearing.
From what, yeah, what I've seen, your plan commission always takes those types of things into consideration, and most of the time, smart petitioners will take those into consideration as well.
No objections from me. Thanks for coming back.
I don't think there's any action needed. Yeah,
No.
So that'll be back before you guys.
Item number 5, Kimberly again, to provide an update on Harmony Square project.
Great, in your
Thanks, guys.
packet, we just wanted to give you some information, and we'll continue to have this on the CD committee to keep you all apprised on how progress is moving with the Harmony Square project. As you know, Lakota is our individual we're working with on the design, and the anticipated progress is working towards a 2020 bid letting for a spring 2020 groundbreaking. We're getting into more details now with the architect, who will be under contract to initiate some concepts for stage and restroom building design, as well as working with some acoustic engineers for sound design. We're working with some lighting representatives. Our Public Works has been working extensively with our utilities and getting more of those specifics for what will be involved in getting ComEd and the light ComEd lines down and new infrastructure needed. We're working on some fountain designs as well, and getting a final palette on some site furniture. And there's been lots of discussions with an ice rink representative to discuss how the operations will work. There's been some road work done that we're working through some of those design elements as well along North Street. But ultimately, we'll be looking to be bringing this project forward through a public hearing and site plan at the Plan Commission meeting, because we do have to rezone the property to a civic use. That gives us the ability to do what we're looking to do on the property, but also gives an opportunity to really present the site plan to the Plan Commission and the public and take it forward, ultimately to the village board. So this is just some bullet points. I'm going to continue to keep you guys apprised of this progress, and if you have any questions or comments, be happy to address those.
Any questions or comments?
The only thing I would ask that we just keep, when we're putting anything, the symbols of the music, that we're definitely getting some expert info, somebody to review that, just to make sure that just for the musical notes or whatever we're pulling into our design.
Can't wait.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. It's very exciting.
Item number 6, Kimberly again, to discuss a text amendment adding Racino to ORI district.
Sure. Obviously, everyone's aware,
slides.
since the closing of the mental health center, we've been in continuous negotiations with the state regarding the future of the redevelopment of this site. It's approximately 280 acres, generally located in Harlem and 183rd. The state passed a recent gaming bill, and that is in support of enhancing the horse racing industry in the state of Illinois, and that a new suburban racetrack and with a combined casino is being considered for the south suburbs. And the mental health center is a site being considered potentially for the construction of a new racetrack with a combined casino. And there's been expressed interest from the board to pursue this and discuss this further, and therefore we're looking towards the creation of a new entertainment district at the mental health center that would incorporate a Racino. And as part of the gaming application process, the village wants to show and demonstrate our willingness to consider this use, as therefore we would be looking to amend our zoning code to have a permitted use of a Racino Entertainment District in the ORI district. And this by no means automatically approves anything. The development in itself will have to go through all the entitlement processes, site plan approval, and be critically analyzed. However, we're looking to demonstrate that this is something we'd be willing to consider at this location. So we'd like to formally amend our text in the zoning code to list a Racino Entertainment Complex as a permitted use in the zoning code, and go forward to the workshop on August 1st with a public hearing on August 15th at Plan Commission.
You want to speak to this?
Yeah, thanks, Chairman Mueller. Yeah, I think Kimberly described it perfectly, what the intent here is. Again, this is, make it very clear, this is not approving anything at all, certainly at this meeting. But based on the new gaming expansion law was kind of dropped out of nowhere on us, and the state itself is still trying to figure out what all the qualifications will be and the application process. There's just a lot of questions right now. So I think we as the village, if we're going to consider these types of proposals, we just want to be ahead of the game, start the zoning process. I know we're working with Kimberly's department on exactly how the text amendment would work. We're not even fully sure of that, the best way to do that. We want to certainly signify that it's a use that the board would be willing to consider, but we also want to make sure our checks and balances are in place with review and things like that. So I think tonight we just want to let you know that that process is going to begin very soon down at the Planning Commission.
And that would need to go through a workshop and a
Right,
public hearing,
workshop August 1st, public hearing August 15th,
and then to the board.
and then to the board, right?
Gotcha.
All right.
I don't have any objections.
I do not, that sounds great.
Diane?
No, I don't either.
Perfect. Let's go ahead and move forward with that, Kimberly.
Okay.
Item number 8, receive comments from the public.
This is on Harmony Square. I was told a while ago that there wasn't going to be any water cannons, but I know there's like 2 types. One that the kids actually just aim and all that, but I was in St. Joe's, Michigan a while back, and they had, they're stationary ones, and they're really cool, where they have 2 different settings on the streams. But is the reason we're not gonna have that, is it's not big enough for the splash pad?
Yeah, I don't think we've gotten to that detail.
Okay. Yeah, I think it was St. Joe's, if you want to YouTube St. Joe's when I was there. I mean, it's really, really cool. And as far as, because we want to stay with the music theme and all that, just a suggestion. if we, whatever the music venue is gonna be called, I was just thinking about this one day, Jerry or Rafferty, I heard the tune on it on the radio, Baker Street, I just threw this out, I was thinking, it's like, you know, how we could call it Baker Street Music Venue or something, just something music, to tie into music. And then the ice rink, tie that into some type of, you know, music, so I guess when people come in, they're gonna pick up a legend or a map to say, figure where they're going, and if we could name some of the different areas of attractions, you know, related to music. So, that's all I got. Thanks.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you.
Do I have a motion to, sorry, did you want to speak, Bernie?
You guys should have sat in the front.
Do we have a motion to adjourn the Community Development Committee meeting at this time?
So moved?
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Meeting's adjourned.
All right.
All right.
Finance here.
I'd like to open up the Finance Committee meeting. For the record, it's 7:28, and we have a quorum with both Mike Mueller and Cindy Berg and present. I'd like to make a motion to consider the approval of the minutes for the special Finance Committee meeting that was held on June 24th.
Second?
So,
Um,
All those in favor?
Everyone in favor?
aye.
Say aye.
Motion carries.
Motion carries. Second item on our agenda here is to review the 2019 financial report, the June report, that I believe Brad is going to do for us.
Thank you, Trustee Galante. Yes, you have before you received earlier, the June financial report, which covers some of the highlights of where we're at. I will quickly go through some of the major revenue sources. Sales taxes were down for the month by about $95,000. Sales taxes have been a little wobbly the last few months, but still no particular signs of anything major to be concerned about. Home rule sales taxes showed mirrored the sales tax. It dropped modestly, $6,500 for the month, was down 2.3% year to date. Use tax continues to show a very healthy growth, in part due to the Wayfair decision last year, Supreme Court Wayfair decision, that basically is now having more online retailers paying sales tax to the state, which we receive a benefit of. So that was up 16% for the month and 19% year to date. But of course, we're only looking at 2 months of the fiscal year so far, so we're early in the program. Income tax down 1% for the month, but up 31% year to date with 2 months reported. Property taxes are on track. As you know, the Cook County tax bills went out the end of July, or I'm sorry, the end of June, and have an August 1st due date. We just started receiving some of those distributions last week. Everything is on track. We are still waiting from the county to receive our confirmation of the frozen base for the new Bremen TIF that was established last year, which hopefully will be tomorrow, if they hold to what they had indicated earlier. Video gaming continues to show some growth. There hasn't been any major change in the number of operators or the number of machines, and the growth is now leveling out compared to previous reportings, where there was only an 8.4% increase for the month or 15% year to date. Motor fuel taxes are down, we're down 3.8% for the month and down 3.5% year to date. This is, of course, before the new tax increase went into effect, which my understanding is the same formula for allocating motor fuel taxes will apply to the increased tax, so our distributions should be increasing. We should see an increase in our distributions in the upcoming months. The next part of the report is a little more graphical dashboard of these key revenues, so you can see visually how they compare to the current year to the prior year. Motor fuel taxes, hotel tax, commuter parking, water and sewer. The next set of slides, or set of graphs, are showing the relative comparison of revenues to the expenses. And the main takeaway here is that there is still a margin between the revenues and the expenses in all cases. And in some cases have improved this year compared to the prior year. Then the next section of the report includes the trend line graphs that shows the historic trends of the key tax revenues over time. Property taxes, obviously, because of the basically 2 installments every year, is very cyclical, but the trend line is modestly growing over time. Sales tax, the same thing, varies based on time of year, but over time has continued to increase as our community has grown and our commercial tax base has expanded through our economic development efforts. Home rule sales tax, likewise. Income tax revenues, again, there's a lot of variation there from month to month over time, but a modest upward trend on that revenue as well. Use tax, you can see a much more dramatic trend line in the upward direction, again, largely due to the increased coverage of sales tax collections. Amusement tax showing modest increase over time. Motor fuel tax, slight decline. Again, we will see that change direction here a little bit in the upcoming months, I believe. Hotel tax continues to climb. Our occupancy remains strong in the community. The next section of the report includes a quick comparative summary of the key revenues of the general fund, or actually all of the revenues of the general fund, and including the budget for this year and last year's actual, and month-to-month comparison and year-to-date comparisons, and the dollar and percentage changes. The next page is a summary of the expenditure side of the budget by department, summarized by department. And then you have similar reports for the water and sewer fund and the commuter parking fund with regard to their revenues. Some additional backup data if you're really wanting to get into the details of the revenue streams. And the last page in the report is just informational. It's the impact fees that we have collected through building permits on behalf of other governments. And you will note that to date we have collected and dispersed just shy of $22 million to our fellow governments in the community. And if you've got any questions, glad to entertain them.
Any questions?
Nope.
Brett, is the hotel, when you were showing your hotel revenue,
I'm sorry?
is the hotel revenue?
Yes.
Is that net of the incentive that is paid out of that? hotel
No,
revenue?
this is the gross revenue. These are presenting the gross revenues.
Okay. So that,
And again, with you know, we do have some sales tax incentives as well that, you know, that do impact our bottom line, but what we're looking at here is the gross numbers.
okay. And what, did you already, might have already said this if I missed it, sorry. The water and sewer fund, why it's down so much from?
Well, part of that is we instituted some time ago a two-step block rate structure, which by design was to encourage conservation, and people are doing that. They are conserving water. They're maybe not watering as much, installing more, and of course, in the market, everything is geared towards water-saving fixtures and equipment. So over time, that is going to work against us. And so, yes, we're seeing that reflected in the revenues. The consumption the actual gallons are down, and even though as the rate increases, our actual gallons of consumption are down.
Pretty big change.
Maybe we need some more car washes.
Yeah, could look at more car washes, would be a good idea. Any other questions? We can move on to discussing the finance transparency software.
Thank you. You had requested some information about the possibility, and we had talked about it previously, about the possibility of enhancing the availability of our operational information to the public. We had done some research on that. There is a module that we can add to our existing software that would allow more accessibility to our detail accounts payable data, and possibly even other revenues and expenses, other revenues as well, in addition to expenses. It does provide some additional, some nice features to graphically present our operations that hopefully can work as an educational tool for citizens to better understand what our government does and what it costs to run government. And the licensing fees and support fees for that is basically $18,500 a year. So we can start if the board were so inclined, we could start the implementation, approve that to move forward and start the implementation as soon as possible, or we could defer it. We've already identified that our current software is getting towards the end of its life cycle, and we will be looking to start moving towards a replacement in the next fiscal year. So it's a matter of how badly do we want to move forward. If we want to move forward now, we can do it, but we're likely going to change. We're going to change our base operating software, and likely we will look at these types of features as part of the new software as well. So
And when would that be happening?
we're going to start looking at that in the next fiscal year.
So if we were to do that, when would that be, when would we
Roll it out.
assume that would be completely
I would
implemented?
say the selection process would be probably in the next fiscal year, maybe starting some of the conversion towards the end of the fiscal year, presuming we've got something selected. And by, I would say into 2021, we'd have some things ready to roll.
And just to fill you guys in, I had asked about, I'm seeing other communities that have really nice little setups on their website that allow you to drill in and gives you a picture, like Brad said, of showing you where your money's coming from and where it gets paid out to. It's really nice. You can drill in, and the ones that I've looked at, you can really drill all the way down to seeing who we're paying to, multiple people on a certain project, which I really like. I really would like to get more information out there for the public, not Excel files that they can manipulate, and have issues with people looking at data wrong. But if it's something that they can pull up and it's controlled by the village of, how it's pulled in is what I'd like to see. Because I think it'd cause more confusion if we allowed people just to manipulate the, pull in what they
Well,
want, and you would cause errors, and you'd be dealing with people calling.
That is
questioning
an
so
option
much.
that is there, that they can download the data, but again,
Yeah.
you can't control how they're gonna
Right.
manipulate it
And I
and
don't
perhaps
think-
misunderstand the information, but.
Right. And for the most, most residents aren't gonna wanna do a PDF and, have to buy a software to call it up. I don't wanna do it. I wanna be able to click and drill in, make it easy. I just don't know if $18,000 is worth it if we're gonna do this in 2 years.
I'm not even clear. Does Tyler Citizen Transparency, does that add-on get us to that,
Yes.
that website-like
Yes.
experience?
It's it's a hosted application, so it's on the cloud type of scenario. So it's not accessing our data in live real time. We're gonna have to do periodic uploads of information to the system to operate. There are several products out there that do a similar function, provide the ability to drill down into the budget and graphically present the activities. And they all operate very similarly. But again, this particular product has the greatest integration to our existing software. And accordingly should be the easiest for us to implement.
So if we replaced our ERP system and we still wanted to provide this to our citizens, the residents of Sit in the Park, would we still be paying that 18,000?
It's possible that we would continue to do, we could perhaps be able to continue to do that. Because it's kind of like putting together a web page, to a degree, it's
No,
kind of like
yeah,
putting
yeah.
together a web page. You put information out there and you got a link so that people can get to that information. So I gotta connect the dots between different types of information. So we might be able to make the new linkages with the new software, or there might be another product that we would look at instead.
Gotcha.
And actually the licensing fee is relatively small. It's the annual support, and the configuration piece that's the more expensive component. So
Does that 18,000 include getting it up and running?
that's includes the licensing fee. It includes the support to get it up and running and whatnot. Yes.
But are our IT folks helping with that implementation, or are they just come in and?
They would assist. I think the greatest part of the burden is going to fall on myself and the finance staff. But
So it's not a white glove service. You still have a bunch of work to do to get it up.
there's still going to be work we'll have to do. Yes.
I mean, is it something you could look more into to see if you, like, just to make sure it's really gonna give you what you want, or is that you have
Well,
already done
we've
that?
actually demoed the software. Several of my staff have, and Michael Thomas have looked at the software. We all felt very comfortable with it. We liked what it can do. So our review of it was very similar. So we would support moving forward if that's the direction you want to go.
I'm just reading between the lines. It seems like you think the existing ERP system's a little antiquated and.
Well, it's
might be
not,
out of the way now.
I won't say that our existing system is antiquated. It's just, it is getting old. And what happens is over time, the number of people that, or the number of customers that continue to use that software decline over time. And just like Microsoft, stops providing updates and support for their different versions of Windows, the company is at some point going to do the same thing with this software as well. And they're going to just stop further updates and support. We know that is coming. It isn't there now, and again, the software is doing more than what we need it to do. There's power in the software that hasn't even been tapped by our staff. So it's still serving our needs, but we do recognize that at some point, maybe within the next 5 years, the company is going to stop supporting it. And so we need to start moving forward to replace it. And quite frankly, we started physically using the software in 2003. We've really gotten our money's worth out of our investment. That's far longer than typically these software products will be still running.
Yeah, that's good.
That's currently an on-prem solution that we have?
I'm sorry?
It's an on-premise solution that we
Yes,
have?
it is in-house on-premise, and in fact, Michael Zonsius, my new assistant, has been developing a number of crystal reports that is further tapping the resources of the data that we have and presenting information in new ways and more usable ways than we've had in the past. So it's really kind of exciting.
Yeah, that is nice. Always learn something new every day, don't we? Yeah, that software's crazy price. I think they rip you off on a lot of it, but since 2003, that's pretty good.
Software developers have to eat too.
That's right.
I'd rather they invest their time in finding the replacement than trying to hook something like this up at this point in time, but that's just my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, if it's gonna be within the next 2 years, I would say fine. I just think, or maybe we need to start just then putting information in a different way. And we could do that. We could pull it and put it
Well,
together.
and
as
again, with
something else.
some of the work that Michael has been doing with the crystal reports, there may be some reporting, some additional reporting that we can look at to put out on the website in addition to the volumes of information that we already are providing,
Right,
so.
yeah, I understand that. I mean, I saw the price tag. I
Yeah.
wasn't sure if I felt comfortable with that or not, but, and I agree, if we're gonna move forward, and change it, then.
Well, again, it's kind of how strongly do you feel that we want to enhance that transparency, that presentation versus not.
Right. I was just trying to make it so that, it's just out there and you don't have to constantly run reports and put it out, it's not a manual process and.
Right.
And it's, I think a lot of times if people can just look at the information, I mean, I know for me, if I can drill in and get some answers, I feel comfortable and you don't have to keep coming and questioning. what
Yeah,
we're
my
doing.
concern, it's not 18,000. It's 18,000 plus their time and effort to keep it up and running, and at this point in time.
Okay, I'll just
probably
tap
something
into
else.
your resource and see how we can put something together.
Yeah.
That's
Well, maybe
okay.
Michael can
Do
work
that.
on it. It's cool, too.
All right.
I've actually talked with Michael that maybe we're going to look to start some of our search efforts this fiscal year already.
Good.
Start moving it forward.
There's probably a lot of new options and, easier ways to
There's
do
always,
things.
there's always new options, new enhancements, and Tyler Technologies is a large company. They have a number of different product lines that would likely be a good fit to move forward, to transfer into, and in theory should help the transition as well, so.
Okay, good.
Would we just be
Thank
looking
you
for
looking.
quotes, or are we gonna be looking for a proposal from?
We would be looking at quotes, looking at proposals, perhaps the whole 9 yards.
It might be easier to find somebody that can come and give us a suite.
But again, we pretty much, we know what we want out of the
Yep.
software. I'm not quite sure how much value added it is to bring a consultant in to help us with the process. I know Michael and I kind of differ in that view, but having been through this before a couple of times, we know what we want.
Yep.
We find the product and let's go.
Gotcha.
So,
Okay, thank you very much, for
Thank you.
doing that work.
Thanks, Brad.
And the next item is just open it up to the public, which unless
Everybody ditched us.
anybody wants to
Lord of monitors.
come up. Then I'll make a motion to adjourn the Finance and Committee meeting.
Second.
You said second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting's adjourned, thank you. So moved. So moved. I always forget
See,
about that.
thanks, Pat.
Thank you very much.
Sorry about that. Should we talk to the ladies over there?
I hope that they're gonna say that because